Hi, and welcome to Rise, Heal, and Grow. I'm Leah M. Hill. This show is a podcast production of Apollo Sunrise Center, which is a health, wellness, and spiritual retreat center now located in Newburyport, Massachusetts. Yes, we have moved, and we're in beautiful downtown Newburyport, Massachusetts, so hope you come to check it out and see us soon. We are a holistic wellness retreat center that offers interactive experiences for learning, transformation, and growth. On this show, we shine the light on those who nurture wellness and inspire positive change. My guest today is Susan Baracco. She is the founder of the Story Architect for Women. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. I'm
My
interested to hear your story.
Thank you.
About how all this got started, because you're from the path from childhood to adulthood to where you are now with creating the Story Architect for Women. Can you tell us how that path was? Because I know it wasn't linear, and it usually isn't for many of us, but what was that path, that arc like for you?
Most definitely not linear.
Not linear.
I started out fairly young writing as a child. I used to write a lot when I was a kid. I would journal and I would write stories and just kind of as an escape. Almost.
Oh, okay. So you weren't just writing like, here's what happened at school today.
No.
You were actually imagining, making up stories.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I always think of that as like, that tells me that you were like you had the writing bug from a very young age.
I did.
Yeah.
I really did.
So.
And I ended up in college, got a degree in English, and at that time, there weren't a lot of options for English majors. I could teach was one of the things, and I knew I didn't really want to do that, and certainly not at that point in my life. So I actually just left and got into sales and didn't do anything with my degree and really didn't do much with writing until quite a bit later in my career. So.
Oh, okay. So it evolved.
It
You got all this
evolved.
other experience along the way. I always say it all lends itself to your
Absolutely.
writing, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
All the experiences in sales.
Absolutely. And I like to say that writing caught up to me again. You know, it kept
yeah.
chasing me throughout my career. And then finally I said, okay, I stopped and it caught up. And
I get that. It does have a way of doing that.
came back around.
Yeah.
So.
Even when you're like, no, I don't really want to write, it kind of keeps banging on
Or
the door.
what can I do with it?
Right.
For me, I was like, okay, how do I make money with this? So what do I do? You know, how do I make this work for me? So.
Yeah. So at what point did you realize that this is what you were meant to do? This is your, was there a turning point or something where you were just like, okay, I got to do this?
I think it was a combination of things. It partially was that writing, the internet came into being, and as that evolved, writing changed, and so needs changed, and businesses needed help writing. And I did a side gig for a while, writing for ghostwriting blogs for small companies. I would research and put articles out on social media for them, and that was a really great learning experience. But I realized it wasn't really what it was difficult to find enough work to make it work.
Right.
And I was working with a really wonderful coach at the time, and he said to me, you know, you should think about focusing just on women. And I looked at him and I said to him, and eliminate half the world's population? Is that really a good idea?
It makes sense, right? But
I'm sure that's such a good thing. But he was absolutely right, because that is really what was kind of the catalyst that really I started focusing on. So how can I support women in terms of getting their voices out into the world? And that's when all of that started.
Excellent.
That's quite a while ago.
So then that's a good time to tell us like what you actually do at the Story Architect for Women. Like what do you provide for services?
I help women write books. I work specifically with debut authors, women who've never written a book before, and it's a whole new adventure and a whole new journey.
I know.
So I work with women who are looking to get their voices out into the world. And so all aspects I work with, I will write the book for them, or I will coach them if they prefer to write it themselves. I also do editing. So
that's
it's a
fantastic.
little bit of everything. And then I help folks with the publishing aspect too. And there's a lot to know when it comes to publishing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so, and I just think it's so important that you focus not only on women, because yes, we need our voices to be heard, and we need ways to, to share our thoughts, our creativity, our imagination, and all of those things, but also to specifically focus on debut authors. That's really important, because you're walking people through that very first experience, which I've done. I wrote a book, I want to say it was about 15 years ago. It was a long time ago.
Good for you.
And it was quite a struggle, I would say. Not only the writing process, just because even though it's a novel, the characters, the two main characters are kind of me, like two sides of me. So it was a lot that I went through. And gosh, I think if I had just had someone like you back then to help me like work through those things, it wasn't even so much. I did get writer's block too throughout it, but it was just like having no idea where to start. All I had was all of these images in my head, and I didn't know how to get them on the paper. So,
and the writing piece can be a small piece, honestly, in the terms of the entire book journey. And what I find is a lot of people need help, not just with the writing, but then now what do I do? And how do I avoid making mistakes as I go through this journey and making sure that my book gets out there in the right way and that I don't spend too much money or that I'm, using the right resources. So there's plenty to know.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Sure.
So you've actually worked on over 30 books?
I have, yes.
That is impressive.
And counting, yes.
That is impressive. So what keeps you passionate about that process when you start looking at now, over 30 books that you're either writing or helping to write? And, is there something that kind of keeps you going with that?
I think for me, it's every time I meet a new a woman who's interested in writing a book and she starts telling me her story, for me, I still get very excited. It's something that if I listen to that story and I hear something really fascinating and something really exciting.
Like one little piece of it.
I can't wait. Let's get that
And
started.
then you get excited. That makes sense. I get that too.
Absolutely.
So are there, with all of this experience that you have with all of these different stories, are there any like themes or overarching patterns or anything that you see as women are getting out there, as we're now telling our stories?
Probably the most common thing that I see and that I hear from women is the struggle to actually tell their story. It can be very challenging and in some cases they're bearing their souls. There's a lot that they've been through that they want to talk about, but they don't know how or if they should or not.
Yep,
and
that's
so
true.
Oftentimes I'll meet with a woman for the first time and they'll say to me, well, I don't really have a very interesting story. I really don't have much to say, much to tell. And then we start getting into it and I start interviewing them and I'll be like, time out. Wait a minute. What did you just say?
There's a lot more there than they think.
Let's back up here. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah,
You survived that? You did that and survived. Tell me more. And I think we all tend to do that in some degrees, that we kind of minimize what we've been through. Yeah, it was tough, but it's all right. I made it through. And as opposed to when we start really digging in to look at what can we put on the page, now all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, not everyone experiences that. Tell me more. Let's explore that a little. Let's dig a little deeper.
Right. I love that. And not only like tell me more in terms of, the person's story of what happened to the person, but also how they how they moved through it, how they got through it, I think is a great way to tell the story, because everybody, even though some people might have had, alcoholic parents and they had alcoholic parents and they struggled, but then the pathway to moving through that and to continuing and cope through life, I think is always different and unique. And that's what can really be shared through all of these stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in memoir in particular, I do a fair amount of memoir, and it's not what happened to you. The question is, how did what happened to you impact you?
Yes.
That's the deeper question that we want to dig into when we're working on a memoir in particular, is not just, well, I had this happen and I was this age and so on, and we're the details are somewhat important, but it's the longer lasting or that deeper impact. And then again, like you were saying, is how did you overcome that? How did you get through all of those things? And what did it teach you over time? Yeah.
And you talk about, too, I think it's about like sharing your wisdom at scale. What does that mean?
When it comes to book writing, if you and I are sitting here, we're talking, and I tell you my story, it's one-to-one.
Okay.
But a book is one-to-many. So I write my book, and I start getting it out there. I start talking about it. selling the book and getting it into lots of people's hands. And many times people use it, men and women use their book as a tool for speaking. So if they're, keynoting or they're speaking at events, different types of things, they'll use their book, and that way they can reach a lot more people. So if it's something you're passionate about and it's a big enough idea, it's worth considering a book to reach lots of people.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So taking the wisdom that you've learned or you've gotten through this experience, your story, whatever your story is, and then it sounds interesting that you can help someone write it so it is for the masses.
Absolutely.
It's not like just telling a story, and it's, I'm sure, very different than people who speak, than speaking their story on stage as opposed to writing it. It's a very different experience.
And it's a legacy as well. You hear that term a lot, but it's something, a book is forever. Once it's in print, it's forever. So it's really important that you do it well. That's a critical piece because you want that to reflect well on you for the long term. Yeah, definitely to think about that, the legacy of it. I like that. Yeah. And I remember when I think I was in college and someone had told me, whenever you read anything, you're never the same. Absolutely.
You're never the same person. And I just thought that was so impactful. I was like, wow.
Very true.
Those words can really change a person's life. It really can.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
So even for someone who believes that they don't have a story to tell or that their story's not as interesting or
Probably
something.
more so. People are, they tend to come to it humble.
I would think so.
I work with, and the people that I prefer to work with come to it with, geez, I don't, how are we going to do this?
Right.
And building it in a way that's comfortable for them, not, geez, this feels showy and I'm not comfortable with the way we're talking about it. This is putting it on the page in a way that they feel proud of and comfortable.
Oh, that's so important. Yeah, especially with the debut novel, or a debut book, whatever it is.
Whether it's a novel or a more personal thing.
Or a memoir.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So your work also aligns deeply with healing and personal growth.
Yes.
How does that play into your work and with your clients?
Oh, my goodness. So many ways. I have found that writing is a tool that can help people in so many ways. Anyone can either write just for their own purposes, to keep it private for themselves, or to put it in a book format, or perhaps a blog. It's changed a lot over time.
Sure.
And but writing is something that can be very cathartic and enable healing. For sure.
I think so, because I'm also a big journaler, so I do a lot of journaling, and as I know a lot of people do, but I find that to be very transformative for not only my emotional healing, my spiritual connection, all of that comes out through the journal. Do you find that many of your clients also are journalers and then they want to kind of put it together in a book, or?
Not always.
Not always, okay.
Not always. You don't have to start as a journal, as a journal writer to, that's certainly not a requirement. And I think sometimes people, when they start to see, especially when they start to see their thoughts on the page, when we actually start typing it up and they start reading it back, it can be a little surprising. If you're not a journaler, you're not used to seeing your thoughts on the page.
Okay, I understand.
But that doesn't prevent you from writing a really great book.
Yeah, no, I get that. So, for many of us who struggle, I remember the struggle of writing my book years ago, of just staring at the blank page or screen. I was writing on the computer, the screen. What is that like? How do you help someone who's trying to get to just put something on the page? Is there anything that you recommend or that you think people? Most
definitely. And if it's something where you want to start a journaling habit, the best thing to do is find a source of daily prompts.
Daily prompts.
So that is something that's wonderful. There's lots of great writers out there who, and if you're a fan of Substack, there are a lot of them on Substack that you can sign up for almost like a newsletter from them, and they'll give a daily prompt, and that's just a great way to get you started, get you thinking about. Right. I have no idea what to write about, and it's a really great way to get started writing. Yeah, because I think it's so intimidating too to stare at that blank page, to feel like,
Or to feel like I have so much to say, but I don't know where to start. You're not even like, I don't know what to say. Or I have so much to say, but I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to put it in words.
Absolutely.
But that's where the prompt can help, because it gives you like a little pathway, a little something to think about.
Just to get your brain moving in that direction and your creativity kind of stimulated and saying, yes, I did have that, explaining something is a great way to start too.
So are there any like blocks, mental blocks or emotional blocks that might prevent someone from like doing this, taking this on, someone who like really would be helped, not only for themselves, but also to help others who would be reading their book? Like what is the block that keeps them from doing it, from taking that leap?
There are a number of things that can get in the way in terms of, especially for women, and I don't necessarily mean to single us out in this way, but the cultural norms, some of the things that we were taught as kids, as young girls, I find that sometimes women struggle with talking about themselves.
Oh, very much, yes. I would
sometimes we struggle with feeling good about what we've accomplished. Sometimes there are blocks of, we don't talk about this. I worked with a woman who was from China, and that was a really interesting experience, because in China, you don't talk about, they have these cultural norms that you don't talk about yourself. That's not, and so for her to make that shift was
very hard. Was hard.
So there might be something that you were taught as a child that has kind of stayed with you, and that can be a barrier that can just kind of keep you stuck.
Yeah, that if I'm talking about myself, it must mean I'm bragging, or I think I'm better than everybody or something. Yeah, I totally can get that. Cultural, but also family, within the family, definitely too. So another thing that you talk about is that the magic of writing is in the allowing. Yes. What does that mean? That sounded so cool when I saw that. I was like, what does that mean? That's magic.
Something that I have learned myself personally, and something that I've helped women with, is using the page as a place to write your truth. And even if it's a page that no one else will ever see, and maybe even more so. Maybe that's the best.
So it's just about getting the process of writing it.
Correct. So you're putting something on a page that you just need to write your truth, and allow yourself to identify what is true for me today. What am I going through that's true for me? Maybe it's I'm discovering that I'm in the wrong job, or that I'm in the wrong relationship, or that there's something about what's going on in my life, but that I would never say out loud. And those are the things. So allowing yourself to put on the page what you might not be able to tell anyone else.
Those are, I think, where the big breakthroughs happen.
Absolutely.
I think so, because I know for myself too, when I'm journaling and I write something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember writing it. But when I see it, like you said, when I've got it going on in my mind, and I've got it, all mixed up with all the other things I've got going on in my life, but then seeing it out there on page, my truth of how I really feel, that's extremely, therapeutic, but also, can lead to many breakthroughs, I think.
Absolutely.
In people's lives. And the decisions that they make, and maybe even the decision to actually write the book,
Absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking. So let's talk about your book. You have the 6 things that no one tells you about writing a book, which I love. So we could show that too, and hold it up a little bit too while you tell us about it.
So this book was something that I put together a few years ago, and it's really not about writing. And that's why I wrote it for women in particular who are very busy. We have a lot of things going on. We wear a lot of hats. And it was more about managing the process. So what to expect when you decide, okay, I am going to write a book. How is this going to impact my life? Because it will. Just the writing of it, as you will know.
Yes, absolutely.
And so one of my favorite, it's the very first part of the book, is that your life is busy. And so in that section, I talk about all the ways that you can make space for writing, that you can make space for a project like this, what to expect when life starts to pull you away, and how to get back to it.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Things that are just managing your time, managing your mental space, managing your person more than anything, as you go through, and I call it the book writing journey. and it is a journey, and it is a somewhat lengthy one. So it's really getting ready for that long.
Oh, that's
long
so
haul.
helpful. Yeah, definitely, because I feel like that, like the times when I was like, okay, I'm going to write, and then I write for like 2 weeks, and then life happens and things get in the way,
and months
then I
go by.
And months go by, and then you're like, oh
Yes.
boy, I forgot about that, forgot where I was, and who were my characters, and all those things, and just having something like this that tells people what to expect along the journey, I think is so important. That, again, I wish I had. But are there any surprises that you think that new writers kind of come across or find themselves? Like, are they surprised by anything in this process? Or
I think creativity is the biggest surprise for people. And I talk a little bit about creativity. It's not, talk about a non-linear thing.
Yeah.
Some days you just write and it flows. It just flows onto the page and it's easy to do. And other days you're thinking,
oh yeah.
And the other challenge is that a lot of us are brought up to think we're not creative. And creativity kind of got a bad rap for a little while. It was almost something that was, I want to say, negative, that creativity was, that's nice, but what are you going to do for a real job?
Right, because you can't do anything with it. Right, sure. Get that. Yeah.
And people who are more technical minded, people who are into math and science and engineering, things like that, they tend to be brought up thinking, I'm not really creative.
Right.
And I
think it's one or the other.
Yes,
yeah,
and I believe that everyone is creative. Everyone has a part of them that's creative. We just some of us are more comfortable with accessing that part of our brain and the way we think.
Yeah.
And it's a muscle that can be strengthened.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
All right. And what else do you have to show us here? You brought some other books and things?
I did. So you were talking about, there was a couple of things that you were talking about in regards to journaling, and I wanted to just touch on a few of those things.
That's important.
So I have this book is one of my new favorites. It's a fairly new book, and
that I just bought myself.
Yes, it's fabulous. And she, Suleika, has a Substack as well. So if you want to just start there and get to know her a little bit, she is an amazing writer, absolutely amazing writer. She's just a beautiful, intuitive person, very compassionate, and has been through a lot of tough things in her life. But she writes beautifully and enjoyably. It's really funny. She's got a great sense of humor.
I can't wait to read it.
And she looks at the smaller things in life, the tiny details that we tend to overlook, and incorporates that into her writing. And I find it fascinating. She just turns the simplest things into something fun to read.
That's great. So let me just say the title here. So it's The Book of Alchemy, a creative practice for an inspired life, and it's pronounced Suleika.
Suleika
Jawad. Okay,
she's
Suleika
amazing.
Jawad.
She's
it's
a young
New York
woman.
Times best-selling author. Also, you also wrote Between Two Kingdoms. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the reasons that I brought this book and wanted to share it with you and with your audience is that it has prompts. And so she has collected prompts from 20 people. Okay. Many of them famous, the names in here that you would perhaps recognize.
Okay.
Including Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
So she has a little section in here. So each person tells a little story about their life, and then they share a prompt. So they explain what they went through, and then the prompt is based on what they went through. Did you ever explain anything like this, or write about a time when? And so if you're looking for something that has great prompts, it's a terrific book. But start with her Substack. That's a really great place to start in terms of if you're interested in getting into journaling and starting to learn how to journal.
Yeah, okay.
And then the other thing I have is a 5-year journal. And this is, if you're really hesitant about journaling, this is a great way to start. And it literally has 5 years, and I've been writing in this for quite a while.
So it's got every day, a page a day for 5 years.
Correct.
And you just opened to my birthday.
Look at that. Perfect. How perfect. But each section is very short.
Oh,
so
I see.
there's only a handful of lines here to write on. So you can write anything you want in this journal. And that's what I love about it. I put down what the weather was like on this day. I put down something that was really special that happened. If there was something magical that happened, like some kind of a connection that I made with someone, or some whatever feels right to you. But it's an easy way to get into journaling without feeling like I have to fill a whole page and this is going to be too much.
Like that.
Or if I'm feeling like I don't have enough time. The other thing that's beautiful about this is being able to look back over. Yeah, I'm writing, this is the 5th time because I'm on the last, this is my second 5-year journal too, by the way. So I've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah, good for you.
And so I love looking back and saying, on this day, over the last 4 years, what was I doing? It's really great to go back to just forget. Because I just look on that page and I just, read up. I like to read what I did over the last couple of years.
I love that. Yeah, because you forget. But I also like that it does have just short spaces because
you have to be concise.
You have to be concise. It forces you to, to really think about what you're writing maybe, or what's really most important on your mind. And then when you go back and look at it, you don't have to read through all the other stuff too. You can find things a lot easier.
It's a really easy way.
I like that idea.
It's a really easy way to get started journaling without feeling overwhelmed and from a commitment standpoint of sitting down and saying, I don't have time to write in a big journal. And, that might be overwhelming for people. So this is a great way to just get started. I bought these on Amazon, so they're not.
They're easily accessible.
Easily accessible.
That's great. And I like to, because it makes me think of that book. I think it's The Artist's Way, when you write the morning pages, and it's like 3 pages a day before you actually start writing. Write the 3 pages first, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? It just feels like a long time. It feels like I understand the purpose of it, and it totally makes sense.
Yes.
But to do it consistently, for me or someone like me, it's tough. But I like that this 5-year journal is so concise and so easy. It's already got the date on it. You don't even have to think about it. And I love that you opened it to my birthday too. So that was fun.
Perfect.
That was perfect.
And you mentioned The Artist's Way. If anyone is interested in exploring how to tap into their creativity, that book is really fabulous. It's one of my favorites. It's a great way to learn about yourself, a great way to learn about your creativity and how to start recognizing it. I think it takes a bit to recognize your creativity. If you're not used to, or if you don't think of yourself as creative, this book will help you to start looking for those creative things and kind of exploring those.
That's what I found. I found that I looked at the world a little differently after I read that book, which was good. And I do love the morning pages. It's just
I do too.
Can't do them all the time.
Mine are sometimes just a paragraph.
Well, that's what I'm
most.
like. The 3-page thing. I don't know if I can do that every day, but it's good. It's good. But so for someone who is struggling, just knows that they've got their story in them, they just need to get started. The prompts are good. But is there power in something that you talk about, like writing just one sentence, or just writing it? Is it a sentence a day? Is that how it is? How does that work? How does that help?
It's, again, eliminating or minimizing overwhelm. That's all I'm looking for, is something that can help you to go to the page and write, even if it's a 3-word sentence. I was grumpy today. Okay, that's fine. It's just a place to start building a habit. It's a habit that has to be built. And it's like anything else. It's like learning to brush your teeth every day, or learning to do something that once you get rolling with it and doing it every day, it will become a comfortable habit in no time, honestly.
Even if you intend to just write one sentence, you end up writing a lot more because you just kind of go with that flow.
And if that flow happens, that's what creativity feels like, is when that pen just keeps moving and you're writing, and all of a sudden you've filled a page and you weren't intending to.
That's a cool feeling.
Give your creativity that opportunity to fill the page if it works.
Right. I remember somebody, I forgot where, I don't know, maybe I was in high school, and somebody said, don't you think that all the creativity is going to go away sometime? We've already thought about all the thoughts. And I'm like, no. I can't imagine that, but someone thinking, but I get that, they're like, oh, isn't it always just a repeat of somebody else? But I'm like, no, because you've never written it before. It's totally different for you. So even if you're writing the same essentially the same words or the same thoughts, you're writing it still differently because it's you and not them.
Yes.
That's what I think. Is
your
that
brain and your experience,
yeah,
and your creativity on the page
is always going to have an influence or a flair in it. So
yes.
I that's why I love to encourage people to explore their creativity and to tell their stories like you do, because you never know what impact it can have on someone else, but including yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
In your own journey.
But probably most of all,
yeah.
I would say, is that the impact that it has on the author is dramatic.
Yeah.
Over the course of that, watching people evolve and come out of their shell and kind of really become because the idea of suddenly calling yourself an author can feel kind of uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, I went through that.
I'm not
totally.
an author.
Yes.
I'm not a writer. People say that. Well, let's see how this goes. You know, and give yourself that time.
Right. Yeah, I remember that feeling. I wasn't telling anybody that I was an author I kept saying writer, but I never said author. But
that's a big shift.
It is.
And it's a mental shift. And I start calling my clients authors right away as soon as we start working together.
Really? Oh yeah.
That's
wow.
what the way my contract is written. You're called an author, and we start talking about you as the author right away.
That's wonderful.
So you get comfortable with it.
Yeah, oh, that's wonderful. So tell everybody how to find you, how to connect with you if they want to work with you.
Oh my goodness.
And
yes.
Get your book. And
definitely. My website is storyarchitectforwomen.com. It's all one big long word,
mm-hmm.
but it's storyarchitectforwomen.com. That's the best place to find me. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn fan.
Okay.
So you can look me up there.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Susan.
Thank you.
This was I think, so helpful for so many people who are just, like I said, know they've got a story to tell. They just don't know where to start. And to have someone like you available to help in the process, like I said, I wish I had that years ago when I was going through that myself. That's great. It's a great
thank you.
type of work that you do, and it's great that you can still do your work and allow the author to have their own story and their own share their own thing. Absolutely. That's so important. Yeah. So that's wonderful.
Great.
Thank you.
It's something I never imagined doing for a living, but I'm so grateful.
But you do it.
Yeah,
that's great.
Really
Good
a lot
for you.
of fun.
So thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you, all of you, for watching or listening here today on Rise, Heal, and Grow with Leah M. Hill. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe on whatever platform you're joining us on today. And if you'd like to be a guest here in the Beverly BevCam Studios in Massachusetts, just go to the website, apollosunrise.com/podcast, and all the information is right there. Thanks, and please join us again soon. We have lots more episodes coming up.